there are a lot of people in the United States who've grown up outside of organized religion who reach some point in their adult lives, and sometimes it's as early as late adolescence, or which is an adult life, but I mean, or college years. Other times it's much later on, 30s, 40s, or 50s, who start to realize that spirituality might be connected to having a meaningful life, and so they start exploring. The Episcopal Church benefits from the fact that we have for a very, very long time in this church, and in some ways throughout the history of the Anglican Church from the time of the Reformation on, felt that it was very important that people not check their brains at the door when they come to church, and that we work at the tension that goes on between reason and faith is something that we feel we talk about living with the tension rather than trying to resolve it. So that means that to a lot of people in this day and age, they feel that the door is open in the Episcopal Church. They don't have to come necessarily subscribing to any one set of beliefs or values. I don't feel that the Episcopal Church is trying to be all things to all people. The Episcopal Church is very much a Christian denomination. We are part of the larger community that is focused on Jesus Christ. On the other hand, I don't think that there has been, in our traditions, I don't think there have been many moments of hostility to reason, which have been the case in other Christian denominations, in every religious denomination. So I find it interesting that a lot of my oldest parishioners who've gone to church all their lives, many of them are very hungry to learn more about Christianity specifically, religion in general, within Christianity, looking at different practices of worship and different spiritual traditions. There are people who've sort of said to me, well, I go to church because I've always gone to church, and now in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, they're thinking about why they go to church. And then you jump to a group that's of people 40, 50, 60 years younger, and church was never automatically part of their lives, and they're also doing a lot of thinking. We've experienced modest growth in numbers and very significant growth in involvement in some of our educational programs, and in a general expansion of numbers in the different activities that go on here. That group of people in any church, in any religious congregation, I think this is the truth, but in almost any church, there's always a sort of core group of people who can always be asked to help, who tend to be very active and rarely say no when the minister asks them to be involved. That group in this parish, I think, has expanded in numbers noticeably in the last 3 to 5 years. And the Episcopal Church has, since the mid-1970s, asserted the importance of all Christians being ministers. We talk about the ministry of all the baptized. This was language which worked its way into revisions of our canons, the laws that govern the church, back in the mid-1970s. And I used to think, to some extent, it was an idea that people paid lip service to, that we were still very much a clergy-led denomination, and that, yes, technically we're all ministers, but what does that really mean? Increasingly, I find myself believing that that's exactly what we are. We are all ministers, because I see it more and more and more. I think when two people of the same sex enter into a committed relationship, I think the similarities with marriage are enormous. I think that a same-sex union and a marriage between a man and a woman, those two relationships have more in common than there are differences between them. But I think there are differences, and I think some of them are very significant. And for that reason, I'm not troubled by the fact that the Episcopal Church is taking some more time to think about whether we're actually going to extend the right of marriage, of what we call marriage, to same-sex relationships. I think we will in the end. I'd be surprised if we don't. But I think one reason that we've sort of pressed the pause button at blessings of same-sex unions is partly to let people think about it and let it sink in, but